Well, this is not me. I hate these kind of situations. I've been to a few of these sessions before, these Hall of Fame banquets, and I asked some good friends about this speech that we're supposed to make. And the best lesson I learned in a conversation I had with Kerr, he says, keep it short. They're not here to listen to you. They're here to listen to the NHL guys. Thanks for the confidence, Grant, wherever you are. I talk about a theme, a title, and the title basically is thanks to the people we meet, the decisions we make, and hockey being the vehicle that I chose, inadvertently sometimes, but at least I did make that choice. I'd like to start by thanking the BC Hall of Fame for this incredible honor. Standing up here is really humbling. It's amazing. I'd also like to thank the other inductees, Marcus, Kurt, Rob, and the 79 Canada Winter Games team. Thirdly, the Okanagan Hockey Academy for their genuine support for the BC Hockey Hall of Fame. I look back some 66 years when a cold, hungry, tired 5-year-old finally came in from a backyard rink for supper. It was a way of life in Saskatoon. Outdoor rinks were the norm. I never would have believed how this journey has evolved to today. The memories, the people, and the places I have traveled in the name of hockey. It is the people I have met along the way and the decisions I made, wisely or otherwise, that determined my path. A few stories related to the people I've met start with my decision to accept a scholarship at BYU after playing for the Saskatoon Blades. Murray Armstrong was the coach of Denver at the time and had to relay a message to me and a few other guys who were going to Denver at the time that NCAA made a change in the rules that blocked our acceptance to Denver. He suggested we move over to BYU as they were starting a new independent hockey program. It was a fun 3 years, but circumstances made me think of Canada once again. A bad golf game, some of you guys can relate to that, a speeding ticket, and a raging war in Vietnam in 1967 contributed to my heading back to Canada. As you know, all three things come in threes. So Canada, here I come. BC was a place, warmer winters. SFU was a new school that was being developed in Burnaby, semester in January. This was in November. A glitch in registration process made me wander over to UBC. I was quickly admitted, but it was to be a September start. And this was in November. This decision to change schools opened a myriad of opportunities for me. Father Bauer, Dr. Bob Highmarsh were instrumental in directing me to BC Hockey and the chance to involve myself in the administration of coaching clinics, create high-performance programs, work in hockey schools throughout the summer months. BC Hockey was a strong volunteer operation that was developed with the assistance of Dave Andrews and Bob Nicholson. Dave was instrumental in my introduction to seafood. One of our conferences was held in Halifax, and Dave, who hailed from Digby, saw me devour my first ever lobster, guts and all. Lots of laughs came from the crowd, but what's the guy know from Saskatchewan about seafood? Bob Nicholson followed Dave in the technical director's role for BC Hockey. He got a bunch of us together from across the province to create volunteer groups that did everything. Coaching clinics, high-performance programs, coaching elite teams out of the province. Guys like Al and Colin Patterson, Ted Hargraves, Ernie Gare Sr., Len Berry, Marv Waller, Jack Hagan, Paul Carson, Johnny Misley, to name just a few, who put countless hours and miles in to accomplish great things in BC. He worked wonders with us. Nick was a great hockey guy to rally behind. He was fun to be with, worked hard when we were at camps. and we did it for a T-shirt. At this time, I was dabbling in coaching at the junior level in Vancouver. The old Pac-8 was a precursor to the BC Hockey League. I coached in BC Hockey for a couple of years after Pac-8, but found it hard to manage two jobs, teaching and coaching. Something had to go. I was able to satisfy my quench for coaching by taking Team Pacific U17 Alberta BC team to Quebec and working with elite athletes in our provincial camps. Four of the most enjoyable years, however, in coaching were with my two boys, CJ and Brad, at the midget AAA level in North Vancouver. Another experience due to my hockey in BC involved when I received a call to run a 2-week camp in the summer for the Vancouver Canucks at Moody Park in New Westminster. I didn't need much prodding. The first week saw Vancouver's 6 first-round draft picks, the likes of Trevor Linden, Rob Murphy, to name a couple of guys in the camp. Man, I had not seen the excitement in a young hockey player as much as I did with Trevor. First in line, last off the ice, all out in drills, never wrecked a drill once, and even thanked me after a practice. The second week saw 12 to 15 players out from not only Canucks, but from other teams. Many players lived in the Vancouver area at the time. Heavy negotiation process took place between Pat Quinn and myself as to what would be a fair compensation. I would have done it for free. I actually forgot what we did actually settle for. The last day of the camp found Trevor and Rob still dressed in their hockey gear, helping me pull a sleeping bag out of under the wheel of my motorcycle. The old Cassiar interchange. I was off to a provincial camp in Soyuz. It was our last day at the camp in Port Moody. Throughout my involvement with BC Hockey and a gentleman who took over from Bob, Bill Ennis, I was able to experience a few more memorable coaching gigs. China's national team in 1981, Team Pacific in 85, guest coach at Canada's Olympic team in 87, and the Canada Cup preamble tournament to the Calgary Olympics. This was a chance to work with Dave King again, as we were affiliated with our junior teams a few years earlier. As a teacher in West Vancouver School District, I was involved with our Asia Pacific Studies program. A gentleman by the name of Harry Hari from Sendai, Japan, was visiting our school. In our conversation, he asked if I knew anybody who could coach in their high school hockey program, among other duties. He wanted to know someone who could work in high school, coach the hockey team, and consult in their international education department. I was that guy. In 1989, my family, wife Ursula, CJ, and Brad packed their bags and left Canada. It was in Japan that I had a chance to work once again with Dave King and Guy Chiron as they were helping out Japan's junior national team, as well as playing a series against Japan's national team in the Olympic program. Once again, a decision I made to work in Japan turned out to be an incredible hockey experience. It was interesting coaching in Japan without any language skills, but I soon became proficient in the language of hockey. Japanese words such as shuto, skato, were rolling off my tongue with ease. Nitai-ich. This was a 2-on-1 phrase that I concocted because there was no such thing as a 2-on-1 phrase in Japanese. It made absolutely no sense to the Japanese players, but they soon understood, laughed, and carried on. It was sort of a gaijin thing back in those days. Later in 1994, I had a chance to coach our BC female under-18 team, the Canada Winter Games. Again, this decision came back to create numerous experiences. We created a team that we felt pretty good about. Terry Bangan, a good friend of mine, warned me about the selection process. He said, bring lots of tissue. He was coy about the reason why. Without a program, I couldn't tell who made the team or not. They were all crying. This experience, along with my position as high-performance coordinator and provincial coach for BC, I found myself at camps. I walked in on a conversation Bill Ennis was having with an old friend of mine, Wally Kozak. He was Mr. Hockey at Hockey Canada. He had coached our national team, worked behind the scenes developing coaching material, and eventually became the head scout for the program. Wally was incredibly knowledgeable about the game and the difference between guys and women's game. He was talking to Bill about me and an opportunity to scout for the national program. These were 10 incredible years working with Wally, Mel Davidson, and countless others. This gig took me to East Coast, West Coast, northern communities, NCAA schools, everywhere searching out talent to fill our national programs, under 18, under 22, and the national team. Olympic gold in Torino, Salt Lake, Vancouver were the results of people like Mel Davidson, Brian Hart, Jimmy Shatford, Laura Solberg, Rob Larson, and Doug McLean. I was fortunate to have worked with a number of good people on the female side over the years. Nancy Wilson, who you just met, one of my last year's inductees, was instrumental in gathering good people together and put on an excellent hockey school for girls in Summerland, which was a first in BC. Dedication, commitment, and making female hockey thrive was the mandate for the likes of Nat, Doreen, Patty, Becky, Linda, Bruce, JC, Gwen, Joanne, Shelley. The list goes on. It was here that I met June. He was the president of the Ice Hockey Organization. This group was a host for the parents of the national women's team during the Olympics. I crossed paths again with Nick, who along with Bobby Clark would meet with Canada House for a beverage and lots of discussion about our teams in the Nagano. Another experience resulted in my current job. Nancy Wilson and I founded the Windsor Hockey School's Academy 11 years ago. It evolved from a conversation in Nagano with Nick and others re our game. The ensuing Open Ice Summit in Toronto in 1999 spurred the idea of the Academy concept. Our Academy has been successful because of the on-ice people, the likes of Nancy, Randy Heath, Terry Bingley, Jason Phillips, Dan Walton, Sven Butenschon, Aaron Krantz, Chad Wren, Terry Bangan, Ollie Gerber, Trent Bingley, and Rob Fuchs demonstrated the passion and desire to instill proper skills in order for our kids to enjoy the game that much more. I've enjoyed these guys' work ethic, passion, and friendship. You see, hockey people involved in the game have made these 11 years very, very wonderful. I got a call from one of my sons in April 2014. Asked me if I could drive one of the kids to a soccer or hockey. I forget which one it was. I was told him I was in Washington, D.C., and it would be a tough commute. It was then that I thought to myself, it's time to put the scouting book down. After 10 years, that decision brought to a close a long and dear direct involvement in organized hockey. I'd like to offer a special thanks to my family, who endured the countless evenings, weekends, and in case of Hockey Canada events, 2 or more weeks. To my wife, Ursula, who manned the fort while I chased my passion. To CJ and Brad, who grew up to be incredible men, husbands, and fathers in spite of my absence. My new job, now that I've retired 12 years ago, is driving my grandkids to and from rinks, pitches, and music venues. I can't see this gig ending anytime soon. My speech, however, yes, I can see it ending now. Thank you very much.